the Workforce Connections podcast, where we discuss workforce development in Southern Nevada. Here's your host.
Welcome to another edition of the WC podcast. I'm Jeannie Kuennen, and I'm your host for today. With me is Stacy Smith, the Executive Director of Nye Communities Coalition. Before we get started, this is your first visit to the WC podcast. What do you think of our set?
This is awesome. This is beautiful. I love the wood. I got to see the UNR Innovation Center's podcast area. And
oh, wow.
I'm not comparing or nothing, but y'all's is nice. This is quite a bit of space. So y'all are in good shape.
We do it right here. Yeah. We do it right here. So tell us more about Nye Communities Coalition, your role, and what services you provide out in Nye County and at the surrounding areas as well.
Okay. That's a big question. When I try to wrap up everything that we do, a lot of times it's hard to encapsulate it all. My role is founding executive director, and then I've transitioned into CEO recently. The organization has actually been around for 20 years this year. This December is our 20th anniversary. Y'all will have to come
amazing.
Out. Yeah, yes. Come out and join us for the party. It's been a great opportunity for all of us that work there and for our community to see all the growth and everything that we've had happen. If I was to try to capture everything that we do, we've got divisions. So in addition, I mean, you're real familiar with the workforce. Mm-hmm. You're definitely have been there with us through the whole time.
From the beginning, I think.
From the beginning.
From the very beginning.
Yeah, that's been really nice having you and that consistency there. That's been great. So you're familiar with that. So I'll talk about some of the other programs that we offer in addition to the workforce. We cover Nye, Esmeralda, and Lincoln County, and we have prevention and wellness. And in that department, we do a lot of health initiatives. We do some diabetes education, chronic disease, pain management. We offer yoga, qigong. With our SNAP Ed grants, we provide nutrition, fitness, wellness, car safety, sleep safety, swim safety, a variety of things of all health and wellness focused. We also have our before and after school program, so we offer that in collaboration with the Nye County School District, and so that happens only in Pahrump. Most of those other programs I was talking about occur in Nye, Esmeralda, and Lincoln County, but the workforce that we would deliver only happens in Nye and Esmeralda, and then the before and after school program only happens in Pahrump. We also have prevention, and so we do a lot, especially right now around opioid. We do the naloxone trainings. We do drug takebacks with the Sheriff's Department. We do a lot of education. We fund a lot of programming to the community for prevention programs in the schools and at other organizations. And then we do the training that comes with workforce and with the Brownfields grant. It's just a lot. So we operate off a little bit over 50 grants. And so in rural communities, you wear a lot of hats. And so that's we receive quite a few grants.
So in your background, forgive me if I don't remember this correctly, but your background primarily was substance abuse counseling.
It was.
Right before you started the coalition.
Yeah, prior to starting the coalition, I'm a licensed drug counselor, and I continue to be a licensed drug counselor. And that's what I did once I graduated college. I got straight into addictions and therapy. And so I was in private practice, worked a little bit for West Care, if you're familiar with that here. Yep. They started in Vegas, and they did a little office out in Pahrump when I got pregnant and didn't want to commute anymore. And so that's what got me into that and doing all that. And then when the school district had this opportunity to start this prevention programming in the schools and to form this committee that now is turned into the coalition, that's how it all happened. One of the bigger roles that we have in the community is systems development, and that's what we are at our core with that coalition side. We get all of our partners and agencies and governmental entities together. We're all working on issues in a collaborative process. We've put social workers in the schools. We've built a public transportation system. We've worked on all kinds of projects together collaboratively in the community.
Yeah, because public transportation in the rurals, usually it's non-existent.
And it was kind of when we would do systems planning and we would all get together to talk in the community about what the problems are and how we're going to address it. It was kind of become that was just the number one thing that we would put up on the board. Public transportation, that's the big problem.
Right.
What do we do now? And it became where we finally saw some opportunities working with NDOT and some other funding, the Veterans Association, and we were able to cobblestone some funding together and develop an on-demand system. And that's what our community's been operating on for about 5 years. We operated it, NICC operated it the first 3 years, and then we worked with a private nonprofit and we transferred that responsibility over to them. And now we're just a collaborator with them.
Wow.
Yep.
So that kind of leads into my next question, because you mentioned transportation, but what are some of the other biggest challenges, especially in some of the rural communities that you serve? And you go all the way from, Pahrump to Tonopah and then Lincoln County with Caliente and Alamo.
Yeah.
Those communities.
Every community is different is the big thing to keep in mind. But by and large, the biggest problem or the biggest challenge is the remoteness of the majority of the communities. But every community is kind of different. If you look at Pahrump, however goes Las Vegas is how goes Pahrump. We're only an hour away. We are
community, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just right there. And if y'all are having problems with construction, we're having problems with construction. If y'all are having problem with tourism, we're having problems with tourism. And so we are very fed by the Las Vegas environment, and so we're highly impacted by whatever y'all are experiencing here. One of the key differences is our capacity. A lot of times there's multiple layers of resources in an urban area. Not that, every solution's fixed here in Vegas, but y'all usually have a few more resources than we do. In rural communities, so many times the resources are one layer deep. And so that's the problem that you run into some there. If you go into other communities like Tonopah, it's just the number of people in some of the communities, just the basic needs. Is there a grocery store with fresh, fruit and meats?
Well, and Tonopah, to me, is always kind of right in the middle of the state. You're basically 4 hours from Reno or 4 hours from Las Vegas.
So everything's going to cost a little bit more. Everything's going to take a little more time. There hasn't been medical care there. The problems that you run into when you really start going frontier is, can you get the workforce in there? Can you get the people in there? So being where they're located, it's definitely difficult. And then in Esmeralda, there's extremely here's a decent sized county physical wise, but less than 1,000 people in the whole county.
700 to 800.
748, is the previous census. I haven't looked at this year's yet, or the 2022 yet.
Yeah. So in Goldfield, I think comes out, but very small communities in Esmeralda County, but big mining area.
Big mining and decent ag. Yep. So, and especially with lithium picking up now, and with the potentials that our state has for lithium, Esmeralda has some really large, I don't know if you've ever had the chance to fly over it, but if you take a trip to Reno, you typically will fly over it, and you can see those huge lithium mines out there, and it's impressive. Yeah,
I always remember flying over. It's a little bit more north, but Hawthorne that has that big military depot, all the bunkers. So when you fly, you just kind of take that Highway 95 the whole way. You get to see it all. So you guys are connecting those partners together and trying to mitigate some of those challenges with the different stakeholders in those rural communities. So that's awesome.
Yeah, that's our vision, is to grow healthy organizations, people, and environments, and that's what we're working on, is how can we help.
That's great. Yep. What are some of the employment and training opportunities you see out in Nye County and some of the surrounding counties as well with Esmeralda and Lincoln?
Well, some of the big things, like right now we're working on Brownsville grant that we just received, and what we do is we braid that with our workforce grant, and when it's appropriate, we dual enroll them. And so there's quite a few opportunities for employment that will hopefully come out of that grant, both in the solar and cleanup, and like there's a low-level nuclear waste repository on the way to Beatty. And so there's quite a few jobs there. There's also some building and ground, some inspections jobs that can come out of that. So what happens in rural communities is where you won't go in and find 50, 75, 500 jobs of this type. You'll see there's 1 or 2, 3 or 4. In some communities, sometimes you'll train somebody, and that job, there's one job like that. And so maybe in Tonopah, they're only needing 1 of these people. And so you're trying, as we look at the training opportunities, we try to see, can we give them skills that will give them multiple opportunities. we're a partner. We have our chief operating officer is on the SWCRETA board, which is the Southwest Regional Economic Development Board. And through that, she's able to hear those rumors and those hopeful, people are thinking about moving in and doing this. People are thinking about moving in and doing this. And we try to keep an ear on that, and then we try to help educate our career coaches and say, hey, there may be, we don't know for sure if they're going to get the funding, if it's going to work out, but there's somebody that's looking at moving this kind of industry or these kind of positions out there. And so we may need 3 welders. Well, we need welders, anyway. So welders are going to find jobs. Yeah. So what we try to do is, if we prepare for this pathway for employment for them because of the hope that this business is going to come out to our community. But we recognize that we're trying to still give them a skill that's transferable to these, then they can go into solar, they can go into mining, or they can just be at some of the small private businesses, or they can even open up their own business.
Right.
Small business in rural communities is a huge, larger employer. But it's just it's kind of encapsulate that. It's kind of hard to put parameters to it because it's all different kinds of small businesses. Everything from your cottage industry of, for example, I've met this woman in Pahrump that's growing sunflowers. And she's doing great business, believe it or not, with growing sunflowers and a couple other different kinds of sunflowers. She's figured out how to rotate her fields, and so she's got all these different beautiful sunflowers. She's selling them there in Pahrump. She opens up a farmer's market 3 days a week there.
Sunflower bouquets?
Sunflower bouquets. And she comes into Summerlin and some other farmers markets here in Las Vegas. And so she's got a pretty decent little home business that's supporting her and her family. And she's doing it by growing a field of sunflowers.
Wow, that's amazing. I never
cool?
would have thought
I know.
sunflowers in rural Nye County.
Yeah. We've got a growing ag industry. There's quite, Pahrump decades ago, 40 years ago, was a cotton farming community back in the 50s and 60s. Right. And so we don't have the water to go back to cotton. But if you're careful and aware, you can grow a decent ag industry in Nye County. And so there seems to be a little bit of a upsurge in that.
Wow.
Yep.
Never would have thought about that.
Yep.
So, do you have any final thoughts or?
I think just from my perspective as far as what we do and how it fits with workforce is, just number one, we appreciate partnering with Workforce Connections, and we love this opportunity that we have to collaborate with y'all and with the other partners on building workforce. I think the things that we try to keep in mind is that we've got an aging population. Pahrump's got an older population especially, but all of Nye County has an older population. Lincoln and Esmeralda are a little bit younger. But as we try to engage and keep a younger population in our community, I think it's important that in the roles that grow your own and then keeping them local, if there's a way to do that and keep that in mind. And so some of the things that we found that works in that is working with our school districts with their career and technical ed, and then working through AmeriCorps and Vistas. We've been really successful with, we transition them, during that CTE partnering. Y'all have worked with us on our Youth Works program with paying for some work experiences for those kids that are in that.
Giving them an opportunity to learn while they earn some money.
Yeah, in that third year.
Yeah.
And so that works out well. And then getting them into college and AmeriCorps, giving them work experiences and internships, figuring out how to work with the colleges. And now that so many universities are doing online remote, it's really allowing us the opportunity to keep people local and entice.
And that's where, because I come from a rural community as well, and there wasn't a lot of opportunity. I mean, that's one of the big reasons I'm here in Las Vegas is there are very limited job opportunities, especially for someone just out of high school or college, so they do have to relocate a lot of times to another larger area.
Yeah. And so many times historically they used to have to relocate to get any higher ed.
Right.
That's kind of been addressed, and Great Basin College is a great partner, and they're offering some amazing online classes, and their nursing class is great. And so there's some good opportunities there, but our university system allowing those 3-in-1s where you do 3 years at a local college and then you do your last year remote to the university. Those are some great opportunities, and they will keep people local. One of the things that I'm finding too that COVID has taught me is that remote work is possible and that it can be done. It's not going away.
It's not
and
go away.
I think it can be done well.
Yes.
You know, I would not say that we are perfect yet, but we're having some good success in some instances with it. You have to really have really good communication between the remote worker and their supervisor. And we're still picking out some of the bugs, but I honestly think that will open up some opportunities to keep young people engaged in your
their
community.
Communities, yes.
And even if they feel that need to go away for a while, because I was a rural kid too. I was a rural West Texas kid, was not going to stay in my hometown. There was no way they were keeping me there. And so I moved to very large urban communities and enjoyed that. And so get them back somehow.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, that's great. Thank you for coming today. I really appreciate visiting with you. It's always good to visit with you. Thank you all for joining us today for this episode of the WC Podcast. I want to thank you again for joining us. Thank you for watching, and stay safe, everyone. All right, Stacy. So we're going to start the first segment with your favorites. So I'm going to ask you some questions. So, your favorite food?
My favorite food is probably salads and soups.
Wow.
I love them.
Okay.
Yep. That's what
Awesome.
I order any restaurant I go to, soups and salads.
Okay. Favorite movie?
Matrix for sure, the original OG first
Keanu
version.
Reeves.
Love that. Yep.
Your favorite city to visit?
It's going to probably have to be Austin, Texas right now. I'm a
beautiful.
native Texan, and although it's hot right now, so not today, but maybe October.
It's hot here too.
Yeah, it's hot here too.
Your favorite subject in school?
You know what? It was geography. I liked math. I
love it.
loved English, but geography made me happy. Reading maps.
Okay, awesome. Your favorite artist or musical group?
Right now, Macy Gray probably.
Really?
Yeah,
Texas girl?
Yeah, I'm not big on country music. I know
Okay.
country music because I grew up with it, but I love Macy Gray.
Okay.
Yeah.
Favorite holiday?
Probably Thanksgiving. I think I have low expectations for it, and it's just kind of all of us getting together and playing some big games.
All right. And last one, favorite sports team?
Oh gosh, I like high school sports and college sports.
Oh, small town, college, or high school is,
yeah. If I follow Dallas Cowboys a little bit, but yeah, I like a high school, game better than any.
Okay. Next segment, we're going to move on to tough choices.
Ooh, okay, that sounds hard.
So vacation in the U.S. or abroad?
It's definitely abroad. I've traveled a lot in the United States, and I love it, and there's still much to see, but I'm ready to go abroad.
Okay. Camping or glamping?
For sure, glamping at this point in my life. You asked me 20 years ago, I would have said camping, but right now it's some glamping.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Coffee, for sure.
Okay. Owe money or owe a favor?
Ooh, I'd rather owe money.
Me too.
Yep.
Cats or dogs?
Cats, love them both, but cats.
Okay.
Yep.
Justice or grace?
Wow, that's a good one. Grace.
Actions or words?
Actions.
Yep, actions speak definitely
Yeah,
louder than
yeah,
words.
For sure.
Okay, we're on to our last segment, and this is Finish the Sentence.
Okay.
If you could live anywhere, it would be?
An Airbnb so I could go around to everywhere. I've cheated on that question.
Your favorite thing about your job is?
The change. I know that probably drives other people crazy, and I drive people crazy with that, but I love the evolution and change.
The best part of living in Southern Nevada is?
No bugs. Me and my husband just talked about this.
This is true.
Oh.
3 words that describe you are?
Tall, funny, creative.
Awesome. If you could travel back in time, you would travel to?
I think the 1920s. It looked like they were having a pretty good time.
Yeah, roaring 20s.
Yeah.
Okay, and doing the WC podcast today was?
It was fun.
Oh,
it was
good.
way better than I expected.
Good.
You did great.
All right. Thank you, Stacy.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.